Hello and welcome to Selvedge Textile Talks. This is Selvedge Textile Talk number 4. This is a fortnightly chat on usually Friday afternoons, where we take a break from our lockdown routine and enjoy a tea and talk to someone we have featured in the magazine. So I am here with my tea. This week we have the pleasure of talking with Marcella Echavarria. Marcella is a regular contributor to Selvedge and a member of the Selvedge World Fair Selection Committee. She has offered much valuable advice, having organised similar events in the past. So you may have seen her name but not know very much about her. I met Marcella in 2017 when she invited me to a press trip in Mexico City. We became fast friends. Since then, we have worked together on several projects. Some of you may remember our Latin issue 89, in the summer of 2019. Marcella co-edited this issue with me and translated it into Spanish, which was a first for Selvedge. We have recently pooled our expertise and begun co-teaching a branding course, Crafting Your Brand. You can find out more about the course on our website. The course is aimed at makers of handmade textiles and tailor-made, so we can only accommodate a very small number of makers. However, the appetite for the course amongst the Selvedge audience is huge, so we have decided to offer a free of charge taster session, a blueprint for a post-pandemic future, next Wednesday, the 25th, 5 p.m. GMT. If you would like to participate, you can sign up via the link in our highlights, in our bio, and in our story. So I'm going to ask Marcella to join me. So ahead of our blueprint session, I thought I would introduce you to Marcella and have some fun. I thought instead of the usual interview format, we would play a parlor game. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes and let's see if we can find Marcella. Sometimes it takes a moment to connect. We have sent an invitation. She will be joining us, I'm sure, in a moment. She is joining us today from Colombia. So we are truly international, which is always lovely. Are you there, Marcella? Just a moment. I hope I don't have to do the interview myself. Are you there, Marcella? So, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to do while she's connecting. Marcel Proust, he didn't devise, he popularized a parlor game, a set of questions. So he was a French essayist and a novelist, and he believed that by answering these questions, an individual reveals his or her true nature. The questionnaire is often used in creative writing classes to develop character. So here goes. Marcella, are you ready for our questions? No. We are not seeing you at all. We're going to keep trying. Are you there, Marcella? Are you there, Marcella? Can we see you? Can you join us? We've sent you a link to join us on the live. An invitation. Can you see the invitation? If we don't get you in a couple of minutes, we will go off air and then sort out our technical problem and come back to you. So we're just going to wait one more minute, try one last time, and then we will come off the air. Oh, there you are. I was just about to abandon you.
Here I am with my tea.
Perfect. Me too. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
Wonderful. So are you ready for this, Marcella?
I
This is
am
a round
ready.
of, I think there are 37 questions. Okay, so off we go. What is your ideal of perfect happiness?
Freedom, but freedom to be creative.
Absolutely. I would entirely agree with that. And what is your greatest fear?
To lose my voice, and I always have dreams, well, not dreams, nightmares about that, and it's actually to lose my voice literally and metaphorically.
Absolutely. I've known you for a little while and I do know you love to talk. What is our next question? Now, I'm not sure I love this question, but what is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
I am quite obsessive personality, so that I don't like very much. I try to, become, more organized, to sort of like, go behind this trait. But, I guess it's part of the package.
As one obsessive to another, can you tell me about one of your obsessions?
Several obsessions. I am obsessed with textiles, and I think this is why we're talking now. And that's one of the, parts where we connect. I'm also obsessed with, I ask myself a lot, what is my input in the world? What do I have to contribute? So I don't want to have a wasted existence. So I, think a lot about these issues of contributing to, leave something better than how I found it. So that's one of the things I think about a lot.
I think that's an admirable quality. What trait do you deplore in others?
I hate stinginess. I hate stingy people, and usually when they're stingy with, with food and things, they're stingy emotionally, and that is horrible.
Well, I think that that attitude of generosity is a very Latin attitude. And I think generosity might be one of the positive things that comes out of the pandemic. A willingness to share things freely. I think I can feel that in the atmosphere. And I hope that's one of the legacies of the pandemic, that people are more generous with their time and with their skills, etc.
I agree with you. I've been very touched by, the amount of people contributing to what's happening in Texas, for example, now. And I actually feel that this is one of the takeaways that it must remain with us, and we must all make an effort to, keep on that as part of our legacies of the pandemic.
Absolutely. And which living person do you most admire?
My mother, without any doubt. Strong, she's beautiful, she's classy, she's an artist, she's just fabulous.
As it should be. Absolutely wonderful. And I know that you moved from Mexico City back to Medellin in Colombia to be with your parents during the pandemic. That is a very altruistic thing to do. And I have to ask you what it's been like living back with your parents.
Well, with my parents, they're my parents, but they're also my friends. And my mother is recovering from breast cancer. So we've taken this whole recovery process as a project, as a family project. So it's been very, productive. Living with my parents is, going back to paradise, really. And it's very strange because I actually haven't lived in Colombia since I'm 15. So for me, it's been really, going back to understanding a lot of cultural codes that I'm not fluent in them. Mm-hmm. So it's been weird in that sense, but within this beautiful paradise, which is, our home, because we're basically locked down, since, I don't know, a year or is it 2 years, 1 year. It's been, going back to the rhythm of, healthy habits and just family life and just a very calm, rhythmical life.
And so you grew up in Colombia. Can you tell me a little bit about that, about growing up in the 70s?
Yes, so I was born in 72, and I had to, sadly be witness of all the drug wars and all of that, which was very similar to living in lockdown, because there were a lot of dangers, a lot of, things happening with the drug cartels. We sometimes had to leave the country several times because of, the lack of safety and things like that. So, I think it also, I'm from Medellin, where there is a very strong family life. So that was actually reinforced with what happened during that time in history. And then I left when the whole thing was exploding in 89. We left when we moved to the States, and then I went to university. So, the whole, my whole relationship with Colombia, it's a little bit ambivalent and controversial. So I think this time has also served as sort of like coming to terms with, part of my nature and my history.
Mm-hmm. For me too, it's very, I've had my children back who had left to go to university. It's been like a gift of a year to have them back unexpectedly, and just wonderful. What, Marcella, is your greatest extravagance?
Well, I have several. I like good things, and but one of them is just collecting textiles endlessly. I just cannot resist. My relationship with Mexican textiles is, I just adore Mexican textiles and mud silk, especially vintage mud silk, which you cannot find anymore, and it's as rare as a vintage wine. I just I don't know, I need to possess it. I need to have it.
Absolutely. I suspect everyone listening to this Instagram live has a secret stash of textiles, so we all know what you're talking about. Do you have one particular textile, perhaps something you found on your travels, that has a very special place in your heart? Just choose one.
Oh, one. Okay, I had 3 selected. So, but
That's okay.
I'm gonna put this
3.
one. This one is from a project in South Africa. It's called Heart Works. I don't know if you're familiar with it. The one of the teddy bears, and it's made with people who are recovering from HIV, and it's just a beautiful, patchwork, a lot of humor. And I don't like pillows, so I sleep with this one every day.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And what is your current state of mind, would you say?
I would say focused, thank God, because I struggled with that last year. Calm, but also melancholic. And I think melancholic about the future of, how uncertain everything is, I think.
I think it's rather like, it's like living in a parallel universe. It kind of almost has no relationship to your real life or your other life. Maybe this is the real life. It's gone on so long, we don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What would you consider to be the most overrated virtue?
I lived in New York for 15 years. So this whole glorification of busy, I'm so busy. Oh my God, I'm crazy busy. That was one of the things that is just very shocking of American culture. And I do respect a lot of, aspects of American culture, but that one is pretty interesting as, taking something that should not be considered positive as basically as a trophy.
Yes, absolutely. However, I'm not sure that I believe you practice what you preach, because I know that you are a serial social and cultural entrepreneur. I can't imagine that you're ever unoccupied.
The great thing about us, that we love our work and we chose the path of textiles, is that it does not consider work.
Absolutely.
Yes. Hello, we're having tea now, right?
Can you tell me, Marcella, how you found your path, the journey you took to get to where you are today?
Oh, wow. That's a very
Big question.
interesting question. I think I never wanted to sit in an office.
Mhm.
And I never wanted to report to anybody. So those were two prerequisites of my,
Yeah, yeah.
style. And then I just always wanted to, as I said, contribute. So when I finished my university time, I went to Brown University in the US. I came back to Colombia, and I wanted to write about what I found was missing and what I remember, perhaps a bit nostalgically, from my childhood. And then I came to a reality. We have a participant. I came to a reality where nobody was interested in anything coming from this part of the world. So I think I just found a way. I always find a way. That's one of the things that I think are define what I do. So I started to write for European magazines, Elle Decoration UK, Marie Claire Maison, Wallpaper, just magazines that I admire very much. And I remember when I first approached them and I said, I'm from Colombia. I want to write about South American crafts. And they're like, no, I mean, they're going to kill us, kidnap us. I mean, all the bad press. So I created a method in which I told them, I'm going to send you a story. And the story, I'm going to send it with photographs. At that time, I didn't believe I could take photographs. So I hired photographers, send them the stories. And I told them, you're free to, take it or leave it. If you want to publish it, fine. If you don't, it's okay. And they started publishing them. Then South American and more concretely Colombian magazines started to say, we'd like your point of view. Can you, contribute to the magazines? But it was always under the conditions that I wanted to write about, not about loves in New York or an interesting things like that. I needed to write about what I cared, and what I cared were artisans that were very marginalized because of the drug war. And then I received an award from UNESCO, and that award took me to Peru, where I did a beautiful workshop around filigree. And then I was like, this makes no sense. I write about all of these things. I promote them. They're beautiful. I come and give these courses. But so what? Who's going to sell? Who's going to buy? How is their lives going to change? And then I just sent a blank email to several companies that I liked, one of them being Donna Karan. And then somebody replied and said, oh, this sounds very interesting. When can you be in New York? And, I'm quite naive and irresponsible. So I was there, the following Wednesday. And I remember the girl who had answered the email was an intern. And she said, and I said, I'm here to see Donna Karan. And she said, no, Donna, I don't even know her. It's impossible. I said, don't worry. I have all the time in the world. I'm going to sit here and wait for her to come. And I don't know how and why and how that happened. Suddenly Donna walks in and says, oh, hi, nobody told me you were coming. And I said, that's weird, because everybody knew. I mean, at this point, I had nothing to lose. And then she said, I'm going to launch your brand. And I said, brand, okay. And then she took me to her apartment, in the Upper West Side. And we talked, and I came up with the concept of Revolution, which is, the evolution of the South, or the revolution of the South. And that was one of the first. And then I ended up, she actually forced me to move to New York in a very beautiful and poetic way, because I thought I was going to do a one-off exhibition. And when I was at the exhibition, all the photographers and everybody, she's like, oh, and she's moving to New York. And I was like, wow, really? Okay. So I moved to New York, and I understood really the concept of branding, and the concept of selling, and the concept of really positioning a product, an idea, and a message in a specific market. And that was the luxury market, when the luxury market was what it was. When Madison Avenue was Madison Avenue, then we did the show in London. Then this was a time when companies like Tory Burch were starting. So, telling all of these big corporations and, big companies like Pottery Barn, like Tory Burch, like Crate and Barrel, giving them the access and the possibility of this world of artisans that was the Wild West for them. And I'm very happy to see that now it's something that a lot of people treasure and work with. So how did I find my path? I don't know if I answered. I don't know how I found it. I just found it.
It found you, maybe. Next question. On what occasion do you lie?
I don't like lying. I like to say it as it is, and a lot of people don't like that about me, and I don't care.
I think it's the best part. I do myself often have a conflict. Do you hurt someone's feelings, or do you try to protect them? And you often tie yourself in a knot. So I think maybe that's the best policy. Mm-hmm. What do you dislike most about your appearance?
Freckles. And now in the tropics, they just appear in just unexpected places.
Well, we are very body positive at Selvedge, and we love freckles wherever they appear. Which living person do you most despise?
I'm not going to say the name, but it's someone who betrayed me in my good faith recently. But as all the wise men say, you do to yourself as you do to others. So I'm very calm with that.
That's fair enough. Let's move on. Let's not dwell on that. What
Absolutely.
quality do you most admire in men?
I think manners. Mm-hmm. They have to be a gentleman before they even cross, I don't know, the door.
Absolutely. I agree. And I taught my son to be a gentleman, a scholar, and an athlete, but always a gentleman first. Mm-hmm. A gentleman in that order. What Absolutely. Quality do you most admire in a woman?
Grace.
Absolutely. What more can be said? Which word or phrase do you most overuse?
Actually.
Okay, actually. What or who is the greatest love of your life?
Okay, I think my nephew Joaquin. Mm-hmm. I love both of my nephews, but Joaquin especially, because he came with a fresh package of messages to bring new meaning to our family legacy. So I'm really interested in seeing how that unfolds. Mm-hmm. And textiles, of course, because it's just an endless love affair.
Absolutely. Is there a particular example of a textile that you think demonstrates the power of textiles to reflect culture?
I think mud silk. Mud silk is just something extraordinary. I have a personal project called Noir Handmade. And I mean, the word is not discovered. I came upon this beautiful textile on a trip to Beijing. Remember vividly, I was sitting at a restaurant, very dark, those Beijing's restaurants in the summer. And I could hear, when this lady stood up, I could hear the sound of a textile. So that to me was absolutely, I've never felt that. I could not tell if it was paper, if it was leather, if it was suede. And since then, I've been researching, working on it, and trying to give my little contribution. I mean, it's a very small personal project, but my little contribution to the preservation of this extraordinary textile that comes from the 5th century. So.
Wonderful. I love this project you have. Can you tell me a little bit about the new shape that I know you've just launched, the opera jacket?
Yes. Well, thank you very much, because that was your idea, about doing, a beautiful opera jacket that people could, wear after they, come out of lockdown. So it's inspired by the chuba, and the chuba is the Tibetan jacket per excellence, and it's worn by women and men. And I made it extraordinarily long, so very long. I'm actually wearing one. I don't know if you can see. It's crossed.
Wonderful.
It's crossed.
Can we see a tiny bit of the inside, Marcella?
Yes, the inside, everything in Noir is double-sided. So inside it's brown, which is dyed with a specific tuber that has all the properties of Chinese medicine. So you actually have two in one, and it's just very wide, and you can tie it or just wear it loose. And I'm making it in two colors. I'm making it in the traditional one, which is the one that I'm wearing, and in the one that is only rust, so only has the tuber without the mud. So it's a very rust orange, similar to the painting in the background.
Beautiful. They are beautiful. I know I have a piece in mud silk, and it's very, very special to me. The perfect thing for a special occasion. So we have to wait until we're out of lockdown and then have a huge party and bring out our mud silk.
Absolutely.
When, Marcella, were you at your happiest?
I think when my grandfather was a doctor, and he, when I was born, he was obsessed with me and I was obsessed with him. And he had a lot of interesting projects, always with, planting orchids, growing pines, book binding. So always after school, I never paid any attention in school. I always came to his house, and we were very busy with all of these projects. It was like an entire floor in his house in Medellin. So interesting time.
That sounds fabulous. And which talent would you most like to have?
I want to weave. I always tell myself I need to do things that are not entirely intellectual. So I think weaving would be top.
Wonderful. Well, I will teach you to weave one day, Marcella. It is one of my life's greatest pleasures. I think it's like magic to take a pile of fibers, just fluff, and to weave it into a cloth. Even something as simple as a table mat is an absolute pleasure and really like magic. And I cannot imagine why weaving is not part of every school curriculum. It is beyond me. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would that be?
Be less naive, for sure.
Well, yes, but maybe given a choice, I would vote for naivety over cynicism, I think. Cynicism, yes, I think is possibly worse. What do you consider to be your greatest achievement?
I think to be able to have the lifestyle that I always dreamed of, to enjoy it, and to live a life that just gives me a lot of joy and helps me, to live happily and to contribute.
We are extremely lucky to be able to live our dream and to surround ourselves with people who share our passion. I entirely agree with you. We are very lucky. If you were to die and come back, who would you like to come back as, or what would you like to be?
I'm very jealous of birds. I want to be a bird because they're just uninterested of who's listening to them, and I just want to come back as a bird.
Sounds perfect. Where would you most like to live?
So I adore Mexico, and I lived in Mexico for a few years until the pandemic hit. I think Oaxaca is high on my list. I also want to set foot in Europe. I recently discovered that I have a Jewish background, and that gives me the Spanish passport, which I have now. So I want to explore living in Europe. I just need to live where tradition is part of daily life, and I need to be in contact with people who care about that.
That sounds a good compass to follow. What is your most treasured possession?
Textiles. I think mud silk, my collection of mud silk, and just ceramics. I also love ceramics. I just love, but I think textiles.
Yes, there's something special about them. They're my,
they're
everyday existence.
yeah, living scripts, and the fact that you can, you know, wrap yourself in a living script and also sleep on it. I think just the possibility of just being part of your skin, and I think that's fabulous.
I agree. I agree. And what do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
I think envy. I despise when people try to be someone else. I think everybody has a unique gift, and I think that's, you know, what they should be working with.
Mm, I would agree. At Selvedge, we have a motto to be inspirational rather than aspirational. And there's a very subtle difference between those two ideas. And I think it gives Selvedge a real point of divergence from other magazines. And what is your favorite occupation?
My favorite occupation, I was gonna say working, but it's not really working. I guess living is my favorite occupation.
Mm. And being creative and playing. I think playing is
Exactly.
often underrated.
I think living, you know, as defined by finding possibilities in all shapes and forms.
Mm. And what is your most marked characteristic?
Strength.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I would say confidence. You always strike me, Marcella, as being a very confident person.
Okay, maybe
Not really.
interesting that you're saying that, but working on it, working on it.
And what do you most value in a friend?
Loyalty.
Absolutely. And we're at question number 27 out of 35, so we're plowing through them. What are your favorite writers, or who are your favorite writers?
Oh, okay. Arundhati Roy,
Mm-hmm.
The God of Small Things. I love. I go back to it. It's fabulous. I like very much Elizabeth Gilbert,
Uh-huh.
The Signature of All Things. It's an absolute masterpiece. I was listening. I'm into audiobooks now because I'm now rowing and listening to audiobooks, and I love Cassandra Speaks. I just think the possibility of just considering human history as it would be from the point of view of women is just fascinating, and she goes through all the myths and explores all of that, so that I think it's spectacular. I'm just interested in many things. I like a lot, I don't know if this is considered interesting reading, but books about fermentation and cooking and all of that.
Wonderful. That's lots of recommendations for our weekend. Thank you very much. Which historic figure do you most identify with?
I like beauty in food, in, you know, in textiles, in people, in places, in, so I think Aphrodite.
Wonderful. And who are your heroes in real life?
I think with, you know, I'm very humbled by my artisan friends who have kept their integrity, their hope, their aspirations intact in spite of all of this uncertainty. I very much respect that.
So you've worked with Indigenous South American brands and built a platform for their products while sustaining their heritage. Can you tell us a little bit about your view of branding, how you elevate artisan products from being souvenirs to being luxury items?
So one of the main takeaways of one of my first journeys, which was the project with Donna Karen, was the possibility of elevating the handmade world. I don't even want to call it crafts. I want to say the handmade world, to equate it with the world of luxury, which is something I don't understand where the disconnect happened. Because if you look at the luxury houses, they exist because of artisans.
Yes.
And now they are weaving that more and more into their stories. So that was one thing. And then I just think that branding is the representation of your soul and your essence. And who has more soul and essence than an artisan? It's just that there is such a big gap between the digital tools, and let's say the tools of branding, and the actual content that they have. In fact, when we started, you and I, creating the courses together, they came from the realization of, let's make this gap shorter by giving the tools so that they can express who they are and really have access to a global audience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Moving on, I believe we only have 40 minutes, so Instagram shuts us off, so we better make haste. What are your favorite names?
I like everything biblical related because they have great meaning. And then a funny anecdote. My name is Marcella, and my brother's name is Marcos, and they are the same name. In the roots. So my mother has 2 children with the same name.
Fabulous. We have another guest joining us.
Oh, great. Beautiful.
Lots of them. So, staying slightly, not quite, on the biblical theme, Marcella has written a wonderful article for the current issue of Selvedge. That's issue 99. We've called it Origin Sin. It's about cultural appreciation and appropriation. So that's one not to be missed. You can order your copy on the Selvedge website. What, Marcella, do you most dislike?
In life, I think noise. I don't like noise. And I think that was a big relief when I left New York to actually, it's very noisy, literally, but also in all kinds of, one of the great things about the pandemic is that there is no noise.
Yes, absolutely.
I think if and when we go back to normal, I think I'm going to miss that quietness and that calm state of being.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. And what, Marcella, is your greatest regret?
Not to have said no more often.
Okay, I think we can all identify with that. And how would you like to die?
Peacefully.
Yes.
That would be choice number 1. And, a great bonus, just sleeping, because I'm very afraid of pain. Mm-hmm. So sleeping would be ideal.
Absolutely. And the last question, Marcella, what is your motto?
Everything is personal.
Tell me about that.
So English is not my first language, as is obvious in this interview. And one of the things that makes me laugh a lot about American culture is when they want to say something, that you're not going to like, they say, oh, nothing personal, but, and then what comes after the but is pretty dramatic. And I just think that's fair. Yeah, yes. It's completely personal usually, and completely, horrible. So I just find that if something is not personal, it's just not relevant. And if you don't take it personally as something that you care about, then why even do it? Why even bother? Absolutely. And that brings me, to like, if I don't know if I told you about this event I curated in Mexico City last year with Kavita Parma, Textile. That was, what made it so magic, this event, was that it was very personal in every single sense of the word. And that made it personal, relevant, and memorable. So absolutely. I really believe in that.
And on that note, our time has come to an end. So I want to thank you very much, Marcella, for your generosity and for enlivening our Friday afternoon. Finally, a reminder that the free blueprint for a post-pandemic future is on Wednesday, the 25th of February, 5 p.m. GMT. You need to sign up, but you can do that for free. We'll send you a link to join the Zoom. You can sign up via our stories or the highlights in our bio. Thank you so much for listening. The next IG Live will be on Friday, the 5th of March at 3 p.m. when I'll be talking to Valerie Bakowski, who will be joining us from Marrakesh. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Polly. Good to see you. Bye.